Morning, peeps. Welcome to United View. Welcome to the Morning View. Happy Thursday, 12th of October. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Big up to everyone in the chat. Big up everyone on the way to work, on the school run, getting breakfast, in the gym. In the gym, eh? In the gym. Wouldn't mind being in the gym. Somewhere I need to go. Very
I'll tell you
quickly.
what, well, don't we all? I mean, I just had my shopping delivered and I've been sprinting up the stairs. I'm boiling. I'll also, by the way, say, Flex, you're a bit zoomed in, mate. We didn't really.
What team zoomed in? You didn't
yeah, a bit zoomed in. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Much better.
Yeah. There you go. Not the Zoom view. Yeah. The Zoom view. Somebody says 5 minutes late. You're a disgrace. You're a cheat. Mike Crammond says, good morning, Flex, and good morning. Big up UV family. And morning. Still got a punchy in my eyes. Good morning. And morning geezer says Dave as well. Big up everyone getting involved. Big up to Amanor in the chat. See you, bro. Did I see Kristen there? I did. Big up to Kristen as well. And everybody else, man. Harry Maguire. We're going to be talking about Harry Maguire, talking about some of the things that he's had to say in the international break. I mean, it always gets a bit controversial when Harry starts doing media and says stuff. And we'll talk about what he had to say yesterday. Some very interesting quotes came from a couple of interviews he did. He was in front of the media for England for international duty. And he's obviously done some other interviews as well. And we're going to be talking about contract extensions for Wan-Bissaka, for Lindelof, and what's going to happen to Martial as well. Interesting. I think a lot of people are saying only one out of those three they want to extend. But we'll get on to that. And Steffi Jenks here, as usual, says, morning, Flex, Owen, Tabislaw, and everyone here in the UV fam. Feeling the love, feeling the warmth here this morning, man. Big up to everyone in the community. And make sure as you walk straight in, just hit a like straight away. Smash a like straight away.
Why not?
Owen.
Yes.
I
said, why not? Why not hit like button?
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? Exactly. Right. Harry Maguire. I know you're very meticulous when it comes to receipts. This ain't even just a receipt to trip someone up. These are just, actual
what he said.
What he said.
Yeah.
You're not trying to make a point here.
No.
But I dare say you've got quite a bit here, and I bet you probably got every single bit.
Yeah, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot. So as you mentioned, when Harry Maguire tends to talk, people tend to listen and people tend to really prick their ears up and write down everything that he has said. As you mentioned, he was speaking in the press conference ahead of England's international fixtures this week as well. But I think he's also been talking to either sort of written media or individual interviews with rights holders, etc. So there's quite a lot of quotes that he has said. So let's get into what he said. He has said, and I quote, "My record under this manager speaks for itself. I haven't started as many games as I like, but my win percentage when I've played is ridiculously high." So he's going back to his record once again. He also said, "I'm not going to sit here all my life and play once a month. And if it carries on, I'm sure myself and the club will sit down and have a chat about things." When speaking about his lack of game time, he said, quote, "If it carries on, I'm sure myself and the club will sit down and have a chat. But at the moment, I'm fully focused on 2 big games for England. And then I'm fully focused on fighting to try and win back my place at Manchester United and trying to help the team climb up the league to where it should be. I believe in my ability and what I have done in my career. Every player who is on the bench should believe they should be starting. Otherwise, they wouldn't be playing at a high level." When talking about his lack of game time, he said, "It's been tough. I want to play games. I want to feel important to the club and to the rest of the team. I have been playing nowhere near as much as I would like. I just have to make sure I'm ready to take the opportunities when they come along. It's not my decision to whether I start the next game or not. If you look back at my last 15 to 20 starts for club and country, I'd be happy to sit here and say I'm really happy with my performances." He also then said about his criticism of his performances in the past. He said, quote, "Of course, there are times when I could do more and could improve. I can only do what I've been doing when I've come into the team, bringing positive performances. I've started 2 games this season and come off a few off the bench. The manager can only watch training and make his decisions from training in the games when I get the opportunity to play as well. I'll keep working hard. I'll keep pushing. I have great belief in myself, and I'm sure there will be opportunities to come. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there, and it's a mixed. But it's a mixed bag, isn't it? I think overall, we can get into individual quotes in just a second, but it's a mixed bag. I don't think anyone will begrudge Harry Maguire for having faith in his abilities and backing himself. As a professional footballer, as a professional athlete, as a person, you should always try and back yourself and always try and back your own abilities. And I don't have a problem with that. The problem is this happens a lot with Harry Maguire in international duty, isn't it? He goes on international duty, then he starts talking to the media, whether it's the fingers in the ears, whether it's, doing interviews like this or whatever. And it just comes across as like out of touch, doesn't it? It comes across like, you say one thing, but you do another. And he's doing it again when he's talking about his record. I mean, my record's great. My win percentage is ridiculously high, etc. And it's a bit like with Paul Pogba on international duty. Every international duty, it feels like there's something regarding Harry Maguire. And I also looked at Gareth Southgate in England involved in this. And I remember the last international break, you and I and all of us were having these conversations about what Gareth Southgate had said after that Scotland game, when he said the way the media treat Harry Maguire and pundits and fans and, people online and all this kind of stuff, it's a disgrace, which I thought was a bit off base because actually in terms of pundits and analysts, it gets a pretty fair shake, I would argue. Yes, he gets abuse and there's no justifying that at all. No. But to say it's the worst ever, I mean, a David Beckham documentary's just come out, and you see how bad that was at the time. Not that one's better or worse, it's not a competition. So my point being is, after all of that, why would the first thing you do would be, let's put him in front of the media. Let's have him do a press conference. Let's have him do all of these interviews where once again, it's going to lead the conversation to go straight on Harry Maguire. In reality, when we're in this international break, from an England point of view, who should we be talking about? We should be talking about the success stories of Jude Bellingham, of Harry Kane, of all of these players.
Why on earth is Jude Bellingham not in front of the media? Why?
Exactly. They're in fantastic form at the moment. Yeah. Instead, we're talking about Harry Maguire, and you can't even put it to, well, it's just agendas. They're talking about Harry for no reason. We're talking about Harry Maguire today because England put him there. They put him in the press conference, speaking to the media, which gets people to talk about him again. So, and then Gareth Southgate, I'm sure probably after one of these games will come out going, oh, the media's doing it again about Harry. Well, you started this time around. Why put him there? Let alone all of the stuff that he said since then. So what were your thoughts on all of that? Was it a bit of an eye roller for you again when you saw all the quotes, or what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely would start at that point there, that I stand by my point, and it reinforces my point last time, that against Scotland in the friendly, when Harry Maguire didn't start and he played in the game before, it's like, you don't have to bring him on. Like, bring on, who was it? He could have brought on Levi Colwill to play with Lewis Dunk. Have a look at that. Like, you just want to prove he's your guy all the time. So it's so naive for them, like you said, to put him back in front of the media after the last outing in terms of what the storm that happened. It's like, I know we're going to double down again. We're gonna force it again to show he's a great lad and show he's got resilience. And like, you've just got over and let that go to bed. What happened in the last international break? And then you put him in front of the media again. And for good or for bad, by the way, like you said, the spotlight we're talking about the M word. We're talking about Maguire. We don't need to talk about him. He has enough said about him all the time, usually for bad at the minute because he's having a rough time. I accept that. And I'm not saying I want this to keep happening for the guy. I don't, not at all. But I just think by them even choosing to put him there, like you're saying, it just screams that they just want to keep doubling down and just keep persisting with this. Like, you must like him. Make sure you remember I trust him. Make sure you remember I believe in Harry. Make sure you remember he's one of us. Like, we get it. Like, we get you're always going to pick him. We get he's always going to play until there's a new manager in England and wants to do different things. He's always going to play for you. We get it, Gareth. We understand. You don't have to keep proving it to us. So that's why I was annoyed at that. And then obviously, look, we can get our backs up and just say anything he says is rubbish. And I think you broke it down well. There are certain things he says that I was looking at saying, you know what? Fair, exactly. That, I don't expect you to say anything different. You should believe in yourself. You know, things like the manager picks the team from training. All I can do is be ready, and I want to help the team get higher up the league where we should be. That's how you're supposed to. That's like you're supposed to. You're supposed to knuckle down when you're not in the team. Don't come across arrogant. Don't, you know, bang your own drum and blow your own trumpet. Just be humble, work hard, and whenever you get an opportunity to play, like against Brentford, do your job. You know what I mean? But don't go over that. Don't go. There's always a caveat. There's always needs to be this little bit where you read it and you start wincing. Because that's what I did. I read the first few quotes and saw him. I saw the video one first when I was like, that's fair enough. You know, I know they've put him
For the
there,
press
but
conference.
yeah, I thought he hasn't really said anything, you know, wild there. You know, it was a bit interesting when he said, you know, about the move to West Ham, and it didn't get that far because, you know, the clubs didn't even agree. Would push back on that. I mean, there was a lot of big sources saying
There's a
the
lot of
fees.
conflicting information there, isn't there? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but he's playing the game a little bit because he wants to show that, you know, like, remember what I said, what we all were discussing at the time. If you decide to leave Man United, yeah, it's only down, whether it's money, stature of the club, you know, and the main thing is money. And never been able to play at that level again. Very rarely does someone leave Man United, go back down, and then get back to Man United plus level. Doesn't usually happen often.
And he's not going to say that in
Especially,
the press conference, is he?
and
He's
he's
not going to
not
come out
going
of
to
the
say
press
that in the
conference
press
going,
conference.
we couldn't agree my payoff. So, you know.
Exactly. And I think it's, and also I think there's a little bit of the self-belief as well, that I still want to do every last, because I know I'm never going to get back to this like ever again. The only way is down. So there is a bit in me that, like, for Harry Maguire, is like he doesn't want to let go of that status of saying he's a Man United player. He believes he should be playing in the Champions League. He believes he should be, well, we all think we want to compete for the league, but obviously we're not. But you know what I mean? He believes he should be playing for Man United. He's a Man United level player. Once you admit that you're not and move, you're not anymore. Plus the payout. So, but apart from that, when he done the sit down, I was like, oh, cool. He's just, you know, ticking the boxes, saying what he's supposed to say. But then when you start doing the, you know, using the term ridiculously high is dangerous in his position. I honestly, I think
That's
it's
like you've
such,
never lost, isn't it? You know what I
bro,
mean?
it's such a mad term because, you know, there's so many caveats. There's times where he's come off the bench for 8 minutes to see the game out. You know, there's times where he's come in having not played for a few games, you know, in a fairly routine game where he should be all right, and he's done okay. And to use that term ridiculously high, it's too strong. It's too ridiculous means without question they are better when I play. That's what it gives. That's the energy it gives me off. And I know you could say we're hyper analyzing or we could be going a bit extra. We're only going off the terminology that he's used. You know, when you even start drawing to win percentages when you don't start, it's a stretch. It's a stretch. It's a
Yeah,
stretch.
and
I
he's
don't
talking
like
about
it.
his
I don't
record. I
like
mean,
it.
he says my record under this manager speaks for itself. I'm assuming he means Gareth Southgate, because if he's talking about Eric Ten Hag, there's really no record under him because he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
play
got
that
to
much.
be. Yeah, no, he
He
has
must
to
be
be
talking
talking
about
about. Yeah.
Gareth Southgate, and even that you can dive into that when he said, look, it speaks for itself, and people will point to, oh, in these tournaments he's been in team of the tournament for, was it the Euros and the World Cup or what have you. And this is why I push back on Gareth Southgate's England tenure, because yes, he's got further than any manager since we won the World Cup, whatever, get into finals and get into semi-finals and what have you. But we still got a really good group of players. We still had a fantastic run in these tournaments, and we should have and could have done a lot better. And it's just been announced this week that we got the Euros back. When is it? 2028, I think it is.
28, yeah.
28.
Old
And
Trafford not on the list.
wow, yeah, because we're going to be redeveloping by then. Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
But still, the point being is that I don't know. Like, I felt that not the tide had turned for him, because it hadn't at all.
No,
But
it just calmed down.
after the Brentford game where he started, he played well. He got an assist for that late winner. You go, I tell you what, you've got a little bit of momentum there, Harry. The last thing you want to do now is speak in the media extensively and rile up, you know, all this stuff again. You know, the whole point, I think, of people praising him in the last week was that, well, actually, you know, you kept your head fairly down recently. You've been out the side. When you've come in, you've done all right. Good for you. Okay. Still probably shouldn't be at United. Still should go. If there's an opportunity to go, because this is your situation right now. The only reason, let's be completely honest here. The only reason that Harry Maguire has started for Manchester United against Brentford or has come on recently is because we don't have our back four. We've got like a massive injury crisis defensively that is somewhat unprecedented. We've had arguably at points. I mean, what is it now? We've got actually our full back four out with injury. Our starting back four are out with injury. If you're saying Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Wan-Bissaka, our starting back four is gone. Then factor in other injuries to centre backs too. That led to Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans starting. And then because we've got injuries at fullback, you have to move the other starting centre back in Lindelof to fullback. So that's really the only reason that Harry Maguire is even starting games at the moment too. But nevertheless, you take those opportunities, and he did. But I just look to this and I go, one, he shouldn't be put in that situation because you know what he's going to say. You know what questions are going to be asked of him and you know what the responses are going to be. And two, then it just comes across again of, there's nothing wrong with backing yourself. There's nothing wrong with, backing your own ability. But when it sort of borders along that level of, that's just not really true. You know what I mean? Or it comes across as, there's a very fine line between backing yourself and wanting to play and then it being perceived as you're sort of whinging or moaning, going, I should play, or entitlement. I should be starting. I'm good enough. My record's great. So if you look at my record, I should be starting. And it kind of takes a lot of context out of the situation because the context for why Harry Maguire isn't starting at Manchester United is that for a long time he did, and the form was really bad. He was the captain. He's no longer the captain. There are better defenders in front of him. I'm talking World Cup winning centre-backs in front of him. He also lost his position at points to a fullback playing at centre-back. So it's all well and good talking about your record internationally. That's totally different to domestically at club level. Because again, the context is key in that situation. When you start talking about your record internationally, it just doesn't translate. And then again, you get this people going, well, that you can talk about your record and what you've done in these international tournaments, but what have you done for Man United? What have you done? What you had that spot for like 2 and a bit years as captain, or maybe even longer, like 3 years as captain. And it got ridiculously toxic as well at points, to the point when we were screaming to take him out of the team, not because he wasn't playing well, but also for his own good.
Saving for himself. Yeah,
exactly. And now, he starts talking in the media again. And I get it. If you're asked questions, you have to respond. But that's why I look above and look at England and going, like, for me, if Gareth Southgate comes out again in this international break and starts whinging about the way the media are treating him, I'd be like, you are literally making him do interviews at this point. So
he might not do that, but he might just, he'll do. So he'll be playing Australia and Italy. So yeah, let's just be honest. Harry Maguire is going to play both games, I'd say. Knowing Italy's the qualifier as well, and then Australia's a friendly. Maybe he might have a look at some others in the friendly. Who knows? But I bet he'll have some game time in both, and definitely start the Italy one. But it's also so I think Gareth Southgate will either let us play and maybe win the games. And Harry was amazing. He was really good. You over gas how good he was. Or like you said, the other way, because one game's at Wembley, isn't it? So I think after this has happened now at Wembley, there'll be lots of cheers for him now. I think if he plays at Wembley, there'll be lots of, positivity.
Do you think?
Yeah, just ironic cheers. I think they'll just be,
I think it'll be like it was before. I think it'll be like it. No, I don't mean boo, but I think it'll be that kind of smattering sort of frostiness. And again, I think that goes to, it wouldn't be that bad if he wasn't doing this media stuff, because again, we're going into yet another international fixture and we're talking about him. And that's because he's being put out in front of the media. If, for instance, I go back to, if it was Jude Bellingham that did that press conference or did those interviews, would we be talking about as much about Harry Maguire? His name would come up when the team sheet comes out. We go, oh, Maguire started again. But then you could even push back on that and go, well, he played against Brentford recently and he played pretty well. So good for him. But now we're having these conversations. And that seems to me totally preventable.
Yeah, it is. I wanted to go back to one of the other things that he said, because I'm like, I think this one's a bit of a threat, if I'm honest. Where he says, I'm not going to sit here all my life and play once a month. If it carries on, I'm sure myself and the club will sit down and have a chat about things. I'm not going to sit here all my life. Like, it's just the words. It's do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
okay,
Well,
all
I'm
right
not
then.
just gonna waste my career here, and it feels the terminology feels off. What he should say is, of course, I'm frustrated. He kind of does in other bits, but he
Yeah,
always finds a way to then use terminology that will just rub you up the wrong way. Like I said, the term ridiculously high rubs you up the wrong way. The term sit here all my life, that's like a insinuating that I'm just wasting away. You're wasting my talent. Mate, make up your mind because I ain't going to be here forever. You know, I'll just leave. It feels
yeah.
like you're threatening us a bit.
But again, it's contradictory because when he goes, yeah, the club will, I'm sure myself and the club will sit down and have a chat about things. You go, did that not happen over the last 12 months? And also as well, like, do you even need to have that chat? Can't you see? As we have said,
Mm,
the writing's been on the wall for a long time. When you got stripped of the captaincy, the writing was firmly on the wall there. He says it himself.
mm.
I'm starting once a month. Isn't that like cause for concern? Wouldn't you have those conversations at some like,
Well,
hey
Owen,
boss, like,
David T's to look at things from a different perspective. We can't just look at it all from the player's perspective. David T says it's not a threat, just a hungry player wanting to play. Is that are we over analyzing things like those
but this is why I
statements?
push back with that, because if he's a hungry player and he wants to play, then after what happened last season, where he didn't play that much and he was stripped of the captaincy, surely then you would go to Eric Ten Hag, John Murtough, the powers that be at Manchester United this summer. And if you're hungry and you want to play, wouldn't you say that to the people and say, "I'm hungry, I want to play"? Then get a
They wouldn't
response
have
of, "Well,
forced him to stay, would they?
you're not really factored into first team plans." And you go, "Okay, then let's sort something out. We can leave." And I'm not saying that like he completely dragged his heels with the West Ham things. Look, we don't know. He said coming out in the media going, well, it was never agreed between the clubs. Fine. But I kind of push back on this mindset of like, oh, he's been held hostage sitting on the bench at United, because that just doesn't feel like that's the case.
Yeah, and
Because
that
you
statement
get the
sounds like
impression,
that though, doesn't it?
yeah, you get the
Um,
impression if all parties were on board this summer, he would have gone. If Man United got a decent offer this summer, he would have gone. If Harry Maguire pushed for this transfer this summer, he would have gone. And
mm.
that's why I sort of, again, it's very contradictory, some of the things that he says. And again, if you're like a press person at England, you know he was going to say stuff like this. That's what I mean. Because we've seen it to him before. This isn't out of the norm for Harry Maguire doing an interview. He always says stuff like this when he does interviews.
That's what I mean. He always
So
finds a way to say it. So if you let him let his his lips run, as they say, his mouth run, then he will end up saying something like it's almost like that criminal who's done something and then they just incriminate themselves. It's just if you let them say enough, they'll just say something that will just, insinuate it was them who did it or something like that. Like he just says the wrong things. And like I said, I don't like hyper analyzing and just going in. I'm not trying to pile on. I'm really not. But I was okay. I was okay with probably 80% of what he said, if I'm being honest. It's just normal. It's just that 20%, those two lines of ridiculously high and I ain't just gonna waste my life here, basically. I just didn't like it. And I don't know. I just think we've got to find he's got to just bite it out because really he says that bit there. Nothing's going to change, is it really? Not one bit of that will change. We'll come back out of the international break. Van probably be fit, to be fair. So he'll be back in.
yeah,
Maybe
fullbacks are going to probably be back at that point as well.
yeah,
It
something.
changes
Yeah,
things.
at least Malacia or thingy should be back.
Regulon.
Regulion. But also just with the Lindelof situation, he isn't playing great at the minute, to be fair.
Mm.
So if you're looking for the partner with Varane, we can say I'm always like he's a steady Eddie. Just give me Lindelof, but he's moving mad recently. He's moving mad. I don't think he's playing very well. So that left centre back spot once Varane's back, and again the game's coming thick and fast in terms of Tuesday, Saturday as well. So we know we're gonna have to rotate Varane. There are going to be spaces where Harry Maguire needs to fill in and Johnny Evans needs to fill in.
I was going to say that's the interesting one, because if we're saying we've got 4 centre backs available, Martinez we know is out long term. So we're saying after the international break, it's looking like
and Varane can't play all the time.
Yeah, so it's looking like we've got Varane, Lindelof, Maguire, and Evans.
Yeah,
and I think given all of the changing that we've seen in the back four this season. I think Ten Hag will want to get back to a point where he can play
Yeah.
as settled as a back four as he possibly can.
Exactly.
Because, like he said, build up rhythm and situations. He said, problem is the circumstances keep changing, which doesn't help everything. So I think he'll want to try and get back to that point. If it's not Varane and Lindelof, who do you think would be Ten Hag's go-to person? Do you think it would be Maguire, or do you think it would be Evans? Now, obviously, going into the season, we would have said, well, that would be Maguire. But given the fact that Johnny Evans has done all right, I'm not saying that Johnny Evans is better at, how old is he, 35, than Harry Maguire is at 29, or however old he is. But it's a more legitimate conversation at this point. So I'll put a poll in the chat. Who would Ten Hag pick, Maguire or Evans?
That's a good question, because Ten Hag has shown that in the right game. If
the fact you have to think about it says a lot.
Yeah, it shows. It shows. I think he would try and lean towards Evans where he could, but he would also be aware that Evans is 35. He can't be playing game after game after game after game as well. And look, in the last game, he played them both. Do you know what I mean? He played them both because he had to. There literally was no one else. And then we had no fullbacks as well. So between Lindelof and Dalot, they had to play at fullback each. So I understand. And it wasn't working with Amrabat just doing that left. It just wasn't working. So I understand why he played Evans and Maguire. So he was forced into that. He would never choose to do that. And if we were playing a better opposition at home, he says, after we won in the last minute, I think he would have found a way to make it be, maybe Lindelof and Maguire, or Lindelof and Evans, and then whatever. But I do think he'll give Maguire games here and there. I do think he will. He does try not to play him, but there are some times where he just puts him in because he's like, listen, you're here. You have to play sometimes. I have to rotate Licha because he's got a bad foot and now he's out for ages. Varane definitely needs rotating, and Lindelof can't do it all by himself. There's going to be games where you have to play. And I just think those are the games he will play where he has to, not where Ten Hag wants him to.
What's interesting, though, is last season, Ten Hag said about Maguire, basically saying that he couldn't play left centre-back. He was like, no, I don't like the way he plays left centre-back, which is why I think Lindelof also plays at that position quite a bit. But also, we've seen Johnny Evans can do left centre-back no problem.
Easy.
Too.
Yeah.
And his distribution, I don't think we had really anticipated how decent on the ball Johnny Evans is. He's incredibly composed, incredibly calm on the ball. And given the right team, he's already shown this season that he can be fairly comfortable in those games. I mean, against Brentford, I know we conceded the goal, but we were fairly comfortable. Against Burnley, he was very comfortable on the ball. Not to say that Maguire wouldn't be, but I think given the way the season has gone so far, if it was a choice between, right, okay, I know Varane can't play every game, we've got to pick his moments, so it's Lindelof, and I wouldn't be shocked if he prefers or he leans towards Johnny Evans as opposed to Harry Maguire. Or he might just say, look, Maguire and Lindelof have played together more often. Lindelof can play left centre-back, Maguire can play right centre-back. That's easier. But I do think that Evans has endeared himself quite a bit to
massively, because of the story and the fans, because of the story, and most importantly, it's not tokenism, because of the performances. He's coming against Burnley, done incredibly well. Unlucky not to score, amazing assist. He's coming against Brentford. The goal was not his fault, nowhere near, and he was very composed in everything he did. As was Harry Maguire in that game, by the way. We're giving credit where credit's due. Harry Maguire was absolutely fine against Brentford as well.
Got the assist. You have to win that header and get it back across goal. So
the same way Johnny Evans got an assist to make us win the game, Harry Maguire's done the same thing. You know what I mean? So that again, I do getting back before we move on from Harry Maguire. In defense of him, he isn't as bad as everyone says he is. He should be in League Two, and he can't even play one game for him. Like, we have won games of Harry Maguire playing for Man United just recently. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we can win a football match with him playing. Obviously, a cumulative amount and playing at a high level and playing the way we want to play and where we want to get to, that's not the answer. But if he has to come in at home against Forest or against Bournemouth, or even if it's against a little bit of a harder team and has to do a job, he can do a job. Do you know what I mean? He can. But it's a bigger problem with Harry Maguire. I think the poll speaks for itself as it's going on. 67% saying Ten Hag would pick Evan. So I think it's easy to see what the community thinks. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Matifalu says, can defend yourself, but that is delusion, to be honest. A super chat from earlier on. Victor Masaka says, Ten Hag is losing this dressing room bit by bit. Victor Ten Hag's losing the dressing room. I had to push back a little bit on that yesterday. I mean, I do my show with Anton Ferdinand and Danny Murphy, and they were both. Danny was like trying to basically say to me, is Ten Hag, is he rubbing the players up the right way? Because Danny was saying that he looks at the players and sees like they're not really running around, they're not really putting it in like they can for this manager. And Anton's thing is that like players in there, he's saying it from a ex-pro's point of view, that players in the dressing room would see how he's treated Jadon Sancho and maybe gone after him and won that battle, exiled him, let Ronaldo go, and some players will be in there saying, well, he's done that to them, he could do that to me. And I'm like, I just push back on that. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Like
good.
He has to weed out these weak characters that can't
I was going to say,
don't want to be on side with the manager. But some Man United fans agree. Some Man United fans think, nah, Ten Hag ain't it. He's not getting and this isn't on the agenda to talk about, actually. I just thought I'd bring it up.
But you would say in response to that, isn't that kind of the point, that you can't pull your shit at Man United, basically? You can't get away with stuff, that you would have gotten away with previously. And if you resent a manager for doing that, that's just strange, realistically. And this is what's wild about sort of this field, isn't it? Is because people will say, when like it happens with Ronaldo or Sancho, like 18 months prior, we're going good.
We've done the super chats already. Just read them out.
We're going good. These players need to be told. There needs to be discipline. And then when there's discipline put in, there's complaints that the person who's enforcing it is too disciplined. Isn't that the point of, like, again, when Sir Alex said, and I'm not saying, so you're saying Eric Ten Hag is Sir Alex Ferguson. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is you can't pull that stuff because you'll be gone. And it needs to get to the point where, like at these other clubs, it's the manager over the players. If the players don't fall in line, then they go. And in today's day and age with, modern day, not even just football players, just modern day people, where, society's changed, or you can say entitlements may be higher than it used to be. I don't know. But they can't be known to get away with that. And I mean, at least what Danny Murphy and Anton Ferdinand said there, it's based in some kind of logic. I saw, was it Alan Brazil on TalkSport saying that he was talking to his, cousin's friend, sister's boyfriend, third cousin removed, saying that they had heard the players don't like Ten Hag. And you go, I can say that. Yeah. I heard from this person, that person, that person, that person, and this person that players aren't having Ten Hag. And in my opinion, anyway, the reaction to it should be, well, if they're not having him, they can leave. Because that's what we need to get back to. We can't keep repeating this cycle over and over and over and over again of manager comes in, we get a bounce, things are cool, and then when things start going bad, it turns out, the players aren't having the manager. Whether it's under Ralph, his training's rubbish, his assistants, this American guy, his actual real assistants in, was it Russia, overseeing things remotely and telling the guy on the bench what to do, or whether it's now Ten Hag, he's too harsh on certain players, he's got favourites, whether it's Ollie, he's not a good coach, it's just vibes, whether it's Jose, or he's too firm and too disciplined on the players, whether it's Louis van Gaal, he's too old, he's too disciplined, the players don't care for him and his meetings, whether it's David Moyes, he's out of his depth, he doesn't know what he's talking about. There's always something. And I would say to the players, what you need to realize is the perfect person that you get along with, you're completely aligned with, that guy's never going to come in. That's just a life lesson to you. You're not, you're never going to agree 100% with your colleagues, co-workers, or your boss, or whoever on everything. But when, there's a hierarchy, there's an organization, in every company, in every business, any way of life. And if they tell you to do something, you either do it, or if you don't, you can leave. And that's on everything, So the idea that I always, lost the dressing room over situations whereby, like with the Sancho thing, he had to, if he handled that a different way and Jadon Sancho was still playing for United, but Jadon Sancho hadn't apologized publicly or whatever, what message would have that sent? He's a pushover. You can say what you want. No problem. What would
Exactly.
that
It's
do?
part. This process here is part of the collateral that needs to happen of people who need to, shape up and ship out. Like if that's the case, if there's people moaning saying, "Oh, I could do that to Jaden," you can go as well. like you got to have people buying into what the manager's doing, and there's going to be more pain. There's going to be more hurt. There's going to be uncomfortable things going on in the dressing room. I'm not naive. Of course, some people in the changing room might not like the fact that Bruno's always moaning all the time. It's just the way he is. Like, so, some people in there might not like the fact that Rashford keeps starting all the time and, he's getting taken off now, but I can't believe he's still starting. Or the Anthony thing. Oh, God, you do that to Jaden? Let him train with us. Come on, don't be like that. God, I didn't have to do that. Let him eat with us at least. We like Jaden. Do you know what I mean? That these things happen in a workplace. They do. But like I said, and I used Arteta as a reference point, he had to tackle Aubameyang. Aubameyang was the most liked player at the football club. The biggest scorer, the captain. He had to take him on and win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's what it comes down to. It's winning as well, isn't it? That's the key thing, isn't it? Because I'm sure, like a Aubameyang situation, there were people going, "Oh, I really like Aubameyang.
100%.
I really like Lacazette.
Bro.
I really like Lacazette. All these guys who are big influences on the dressing room. But if the manager wins that and then he starts winning, you go, tough.
But that's our biggest problem right
that
now.
we're not winning.
Because we're losing. It's harder for players to get on board with the decisions that you make. Winning breeds everything. Even if you might win by fluke or whatever, you just have to keep winning. When you keep losing, but the irony is, we keep losing to players who are individually doing things wrong themselves. Like, it isn't like, what on earth is this team doing? We're not creating a chance, or Ten Hag can't make Dalot go and head the ball when he lets it bounce against Zaha. Ten Hag can't make Onana not kick the ball to bloody whoever he gave it to Icardi, I think it was, and then they get a pen. Like, they're individual errors that's made, the emotions and the mentality, but that's the manager's job to fix it. It's his job to fix it. I understand that. So I just think I just push back on this thing that Ten Hag's losing the dressing room, and it's because people are just saying that because obviously the results have been bad. Because 3 months ago the dressing room was intact. Now all of a sudden it's not.
And the problem is
the Sancho thing.
Yeah, but this is the problem with Ten Hag. This is where I don't think he's handled this amazingly well, or perfect, shall we say, is that he doesn't help himself. So there are certain players in that team at the moment that aren't playing well, and he won't take them out of the team. Exactly. And that's when you go, well, you're not helping the situation there. You're culpable in that. We're talking about, if you're not on the same page and you're not working hard for the team, or you're not playing well, get out. But then you see games, for instance, and I don't mean honing in on one player, like a Rashford at the moment. You can't tell me his work rate's great off the ball in games. And you're going, well, that's a good example of a player which you should take out, and sort of prove that, you've got to be working hard. These are the standards. These are the standards. These are the rules. Because it doesn't feel like certain players are following these aforementioned rules. And then you don't help yourself in that situation. Well, you need, we talk about he's got credit in the bank, but you need to continuously build that credit by wins and by consistency, don't you?
But when I speak to some people, the guys, Danny was saying, again, I love talking to Danny Murphy. I think his insight's really good. And he says a lot of things, especially off camera as well, and you sometimes think about it and stuff. He was saying you can't drop Rashford though. No way. It's funny how people outside the fan base, like, he's saying, I know he's playing bad, but you got to play Rashford. And he said, yeah, and you got to play Bruno. He said, he goes, those guys might not be playing very well, but you got to play him. Got to play him.
But these are the people that, like you said, they won't watch Rashford or Bruno every single week for 90 plus minutes.
Yeah, because when I brought up the body language thing, he went, yeah, I get that. That's true. It's not working hard enough. I said, you support Liverpool. I said, if you saw Cody Gakpo just not trying, hardly running off the ball, hung dog expression, not looking hungry, especially because the standards at Liverpool under Klopp, you wouldn't have it. You'd be like, I know you got a wealth of riches. Just say get him off.
Exactly.
Like,
true. That's the key thing. Like, I remember it really stuck out to me, that game against Brentford, the commentary. Like, it must have been like one of the rare times they'd watched United this season, because the way they were building up, because they know that the substitutions come in, they're like, okay, Rashford's coming off, Garnacho's coming on. And honestly, Flex, they were like, so Rashford's going to come off, the crowd's going to go mental. The crowd's going to go crazy. We'll get ready for this reaction. It's going to be fraught. The stadium's going to be, there's going to be a lot of boos, and it's going to be interesting to see how the crowd reacted. And they started cheering, and they were genuinely caught off guard by the fact that they liked the substitution.
Yeah,
and you thought, well, Yeah, that's just and that comes from, I guess, not watching Man United every single game, every single minute, every single time they play. And that's when, but the problem is Erik ten Hag does and
Yeah.
more because he's in
Yeah.
training. So he
So he
should
can
see
do it.
that.
Yeah. Exactly. PJ says, since Maguire lost the captaincy, he has played okay. Since Bruno has been captain, this is the worst I've seen him play. That's true, you know. That's true. That is true.
We always talk about the weight of
Maguire's,
the shirt. Weight of the armband's a real thing too.
yeah, I think it is a bit of a coincidence, obviously, with the whole team playing shit as well. You know, but as an individual, PJ, he's right. PJ's right. Like PJ saying it's the worst he's actually seen Bruno be for a bit. It's true. I agree. Apart from at Burnley, where he scored an amazing goal, it's like
Again,
he is.
is that because again you're officially the captain, the team isn't doing well, so is he feeling the pressure of, well, it's upon me to try and motivate, to
Maybe.
try and lead, and maybe I'm
Yeah.
not doing it, and that's a lot for me.
Mm.
Maybe
But
that's part of it too.
but also though, I think Bruno, when the team's doing bad recently, maybe isn't the guy who's gonna, get the ball down, get us playing. I think his probably best captain's performance was probably against Forest, wasn't it? When we came back, he was really good in that game, actually.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, it doesn't have that he's out of position. As we always say, if he's
Yeah,
on the
he's getting
right,
moved about. He's everywhere.
he's pointless because he will not influence the game at all. And Bruno, for better or for worse, has to be involved. He kind of plays himself into matches if he's constantly, got the ball at his feet.
Matifala says, yes, yeah, but when Jose did that, he was the problem, question mark, is in terms of calling out the players and trying to, rustle the feathers and who wants to be on board, and then who wasn't, And you know what? Yeah, he did. He did try and do it. And he lost. And he lost. He went for he went for a few players, didn't he?
Although he did it more in the media than Ten Hag has done it in the media.
Yeah,
in fairness.
100%, 100%. I mean, everyone's saying the Ten Hag Sancho thing, but other than that, Ten Hag doesn't really throw players under the bus. I don't think.
And even that, again, if you want to compare Ten Hag's comments about Sancho to Jose Mourinho's comments about Luke Shaw, when he was saying, "Well, I played him, but it was basically me on the left because he had to use my brain."
Yeah, it's mad. GJE says, for United to improve, we need to get rid of all these superstar players and bring in more Højlund-like profiles looking to prove their worth, like Ajax. And again, when people say Ten Hag's not used to, having big egos and this, that, and the other, I agree. And I think look at some of the players that he's brought in are players that will be underneath him. I know Casemiro might be a bit of an exception because of how we got him and who he is, but again, he weren't afraid to take him off at halftime the other day because he's an ultimate professional and he'll just respond well. But the players that Erik ten Hag has bought are players that he either knows really well or players as young and hungry to prove something. So I agree. We haven't really got the superstar type signing since Ten Hag's come in, have we? DJ also says, do you think these players can win United a league? I really think these players are overrated. Best you're getting is top four. That's their ceiling. Yeah, a lot. 100% agree. I do agree. We're miles off the title. Miles.
It'd be a bold prediction to say that this group of players could win a Premier League title, though, wouldn't it? I mean, oh my God.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. I agree with GJE. Ceiling, even this season, the ceiling is like
fifth.
Fourth, fifth. Yeah. Fourth. Fourth would be bloody hell. I didn't expect that because that, Spurs would have to drop off Newcastle, But if Newcastle do what they're supposed to do, and Spurs don't drop off, we could be in serious easily sixth, which is horrible.
The gap. We've been saying the gap between, forget like City and Arsenal. Maybe you'd put Liverpool in there. I know Spurs, but they'll probably drop off. But the gap between those other teams for like that third, fourth, and fifth spot is so tight. I mean, Brighton, Villa, Newcastle can throw us in there, I suppose, as well.
We'll be in and around that. We might be at the bottom of that group, but that's the group we're trying to get into. And can Chelsea get their act together after some injuries and be around sixth, seventh, fifth? Do you know what I mean? That just that area where it's congested with teams who are either supposed to be higher but dropping off, i.e., us and Chelsea, or teams that are doing really well and overachieving. Aston Villa, Brighton.
The positive that it's still early, isn't it? Like that gap in terms of points isn't gigantic. Know what I mean?
It's not.
You can still make it up.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at, Arsenal play Chelsea out this international break. Anything can happen. We play Sheffield United. You know, it's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it? I think City play someone. Was it Newcastle play someone difficult as well? I think I saw. But can't remember. We just got to do our jobs.
Exactly.
Just before we finish off, we've got to talk about these contract renewals potentially for Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, and what's going to happen with Martial. What's the latest reports on that?
Yes, so Rob Dawson from ESPN has said that Manchester United are ready to trigger contract extensions for Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Victor Lindelof, but club bosses are taking their time before deciding to do what to do about Anthony Martial. United were ready to let Martial leave this summer, but the only realistic offer came from Saudi Arabia, and the player refused to enter into transfer talks, which is a bit of an interesting wrinkle, according to Rob Dawson, that I guess we didn't really know about, is that I think we had assumed that the only offers would come from possibly Saudi because his wage is like 250k a week or something. It's big, very, very big. But the idea that basically he had refused to enter transfer talks is kind of curious, isn't it? And I don't think that's a unique case for United this summer as well. We have certainly been dealing with the sins of the past when it comes to moving players on. Martial is no different with that. And I still think there's no way United trigger that extension, do they? Surely
No
not.
chance.
If they do, they are idiots because they've gone through a summer of not being able to let him go or, to get him out of the club because his wages is too high. So you would then trigger his contract to try and do it again next year. That would be...
And there's no value. I know you could say like trigger it so you can try and sell him and get a bit of money for him. Listen, we've got to the point. Just let it be. Accept the loss. They say 50 million down the drain. In the end, it ended up being down the drain. Yeah. But it was like 8 years later or whatever. So he has been here.
But you got your money's worth.
You kind of got your 50 million's worth, which it never kicked on to better than that. What we thought it would be. Very disappointing in his whole entirety. Some really good moments, some really promising moments where you really like him and you think he's the guy. Played better with him when he played last year. Just couldn't hardly play. And this year, he's doing the bit that I thought he would do. I thought his stock would fall so much that he wouldn't be able to get a move. His job is to basically help Hoyland settle, really. And actually, he's doing all right at doing that. He's come in for 15, 20 minutes here or there. If there's a Carabao Cup game midweek or FA Cup game third round, whatever, you can start. You're still not going to play 90 in that game. The Carabao Cup against Palace, he started, didn't he? And he came off in like 70-something minute.
He's still not played 90 minutes in the Ericsson Hunt.
He's still not played, that will be that. 100%.
It's an unbelievable stat. I mean,
exactly.
It's crazy.
And we do still need him. Like with Hoyland, all the pressure that's on Hoyland. If Hoyland picked up a little back, a recurrence of his back strain or something, we've got to play Martial. We can't start putting Rashford up front again. And we know how that turns out. So, because we didn't have the money to go and invest more in that area, which we knew we wanted to do, we need Martial for the rest of this season, and we need him to stay fit. Because if anything happens to Hoyland, and not just anything that happens, we need to not have to play Hoyland 90 minutes every single competition. We're going to burn the poor kid out. I don't care if he's young and chomping at the bit. He needs time. And that's Martial's job this season. Just come in and take the load off Hoyland. And he's doing it fine. But when we get to the end of the year, he's got to go. He's got to go. And then we've got to go and buy either an older striker who can come in and be experienced while Hoyland is still learning, or someone in their prime, or another young one, another young up and coming, exciting, prospect. And you got two for the future there. And you're going, right, I like that. We've got Hoyland and we've got this 23-year-old who's from Brazil who looks really good, and or whoever it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? Or we get a 27-year-old prime ready to go.
Victor Osimhen.
Oh, bloody hell! I mean, yeah. Who doesn't want Victor Osimhen? Do you know what I mean? Yes. Ivan Toney. Yes. Ollie Watkins. I don't know what?
Watkins. I remember me and you having a conversation about Ollie Watkins in the summer. This was in the summer. Me and you had this conversation, and we both said yes. We 100%. Both said we would absolutely take him. And I tell you why I would take Ollie Watkins is because of his endeavour. His work rate is well up there, and not only just scoring goals as well, because he was scoring goals towards the end of last season. I think it was something like from January 1st of this year, I think he scored like the third most goals in the Premier League or something like that. I mean, he was up there with like Kane and Haaland numbers. It was insane. But also in an Unai Emery team, when it's about work rate and intensity as well, he is right up there. I'd take him. I'd take him all day, every day. Problem is he's English and he plays for a Premier League club and Villa's got money. So it's going to cost a lot.
A lot of people don't agree. Well, I say a lot of people. Lewis saying, nah, not Watkins. What we doing now?
He's good.
I'm not saying he's our desperation. Owen says Bangham. I think a lot of times we overlook,
and he has just signed a new
players.
contract as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were saying this in the summer. In
Yeah, I'm not going to get him, but I'm just saying, like, we overlook players who are doing really well in this league. We do. We always do that and act like they're going to be they're not going to be good enough to play for us.
We always say this. Yeah, we say this all the time with players that are there, let's say in the Premier League, playing for these sort of mid-table or upper mid-table clubs. No, they can't make the jump to United or whatever. And they go to Premier League clubs. They do it. Remember when Louis van Gaal wanted to sign Sadio Mane from Southampton? And he was linked to us first. And when those stories came out, people were like, Mane at United, you taking the piss. Went to Liverpool, did all right, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know? So look, and I don't get me wrong, some players can't make the step up, but some people can. United used to do it all the time under Sir Alex Ferguson. Buy the best players in the Premier League or buy players from people that are coming up in the Premier League. See if they can sink or swim. I mean, it's very hypothetical because, you know, he's not coming. Yeah. He's just signed a contract.
No, he's not coming. We're just talking out loud, isn't it? Mark said he's rubbish. He's not rubbish. We'll find out he's rubbish when we pull up at Villa Park, and then he shits on us. We'll find out if he's rubbish. He ain't rubbish. Can't say he's rubbish.
And also, if they came from, and this is where I think this gets into, like, because we watch them every week, we're like, no, they're no good. If they came from an Aston Villa-esque club in another country, for instance, so Villa, what we saying? They're like, where did they finish last season? 7th. If we signed a striker, a younger striker from the 7th best team in Italy, we'd be like, this is the guy. We basically did.
Well, that's what we did in Hoyland,
yeah. you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So if they were from the 7th best team in Spain, we'd be like, yeah, good. Up and comer from La Liga. That's exactly what it would be.
Sevilla finished 12th.
Sometimes there's a bit of football snobbery that goes on with it.
Yeah. Lil Yo says, has this week allowed you to reflect on the season? But yes. Has a bit, yeah. Has a bit. But again, I know where we're at. Do you know what I mean? I really do know where we're at. To be fair, Lil Yo. So that's the Martial situation. Just quickly, do we agree that Wan-Bissaka deserves an extension?
Well, this is a funny one with him, isn't it? It's because people like to, I would trigger the extension. I don't know if we have or not, but yes, triggered that. But this is when you get into, are there better options out there? I still say, if you look at,
I want it to be the other way around, though.
When you've got Wan-Bissaka and Dalot, we've still got a bit of a identity crisis at right back because we're still in a situation where we're like, wow, in the best game against best teams, we play Wan-Bissaka because he's better defensively. But in other games, we might play Dalot because he might be better going forward, which I think is up for debate as well, by the way. I think there's an argument to be made that, you know, you get to the summer, the problem is we don't really know budget, takeovers, but you would still be looking at positions in that squad you want to improve on. There are better options than both of them out there. We need a more complete fullback.
My thing is the other way around. I think we've played this the wrong way around with Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka should have got the long-term contract.
I think he should have got only and I think Dalot is the one where you can maybe go and get someone said there, the Frimpong or, you know, someone like as good as Hakimi or, you know, the top level. And then Wan-Bissaka is the one. Yeah.
We can do better.
Wan-Bissaka is the one that possesses something that a lot of people don't have, which is very, very unique, which is a really good weapon to have in your toolbox at all times throughout someone's tenure. And then you go and get the cultured guy who is really good, who is the starter. Then for certain games, for certain times, for rotation purposes, you're bringing in a Wan-Bissaka. I would much prefer that than what we've done this way round. And I don't hate Dalot. I think Dalot's okay. I just think both fullbacks now, we're setting ourselves up for having two okay fullbacks. And Wan-Bissaka's excellent in one department. Dalot's not excellent in any department, but he's like a steady, you know, 6 or 7 out of 10 in all the departments, maybe like a 6, like an average in all of the departments, as opposed to, you know, a 9 out of 10 for defense. But like, you know what I mean? I just think that we can have a better right back.
Yeah.
Singular right back than both of them.
And also, this is when people are right when they say, you want to be really ruthless and cutthroat. Are you going to win a Premier League title with Dalot or Wan-Bissaka at right back? No, I don't think you are.
No.
You look at the quality of people's fullbacks that have won the league recently. And again, it's only 2. But I know people can talk about Trent at right back, however, obviously defensively shocking, but he's a unique case because he's excellent and he provides a lot to the team. You look at the right backs that City have had, whether it's Walker or whoever, like the full back position has changed, and it's so important. And it's kind of telling that, with Dalot, we give him the contract and he plays for a while. We keep going back to Wan-Bissaka because defensively, Dalot's not robust enough, and there are better options out there. There are. And I agree with you. I think with the Dalot situation, you look at him and you go, well, he's just got 5-year contract.
Yeah, he's got the biggest contract. Like, we've just given him a big, massive. I think it's 6 with it because it's got an option year for a further year, an option for a further year. I think it was 6 years all in, unless I'm mistaken. But he has been here a year for that contract already, so that's why we've gone down now. But yeah, I don't know, man. I like Dalot. I like his mentality. He's a great guy. I think he's tapped in. I think he's good for the dressing room as well. So I do like Dalot, but I just feel if I was constructing a team from scratch again, we can have better. Lindelof, would you give him a renewal?
Yes, I would. I think
I know
that he's not playing particularly well. I think they're talking about triggering extensions, aren't they? So I'd trigger that and then see what happens in the summer, because you never know. I think you can get better options. But for what he is at the moment, and again, in an ideal situation, he wouldn't be having as many games as he's having. No disrespect to him, but in an ideal situation, he's third choice. I think he's an all right third choice.
He understands his role well. He knows he's just come in, and when everyone's fit again, he wouldn't be playing this much. I've always seen Lindelof as a steady Eddie, but I think now's the time. Personally.
But to make it clear, if you sell him, sirens are going to might be a criminal take. But if it's loud as well, isn't it? But the point being is that you could argue if you sell him and that goes to getting a better top centre back, then maybe your Varane's and Martinez it shifts down a little bit. But is Varane going to be willing to be like a third choice? He'd end up going.
I think he might be for one season. So like next season, when next season comes, we've got to look at Rafa. I'll be an emotional wreck. It'll be a big time for me and my family when that comes, where we start phasing him out. But it's got to happen. It's got to. If I'm being deadly honest, 100% honest with you, and KG would hate this because he hates Arsenal and that. But I look at Saliba, I look at, a John Stones, or, City getting Gvardiol, or, look at Diaz, and, I look at these, good centre halves. Even Gabriel, I know he's a bit rash, but how physical he is. And, I look at, Konate's got a mistake in him here or there, but, powerful. The next young up and coming one where you can nurture them and get them going. We need it, man. We need it. We got Leacher. Yeah, we got Leacher who's quite small. Yeah, exactly. We got Leacher who he's rubbish the things that he's too small to play there. But I do think we gas him up too much. But he's been injured, so fine. He'll be fine. He needs a good, strong, commanding partner who's fast, powerful, dominant, calm as well. Which obviously a prime Varane would have been that, and we're getting the latter stages of it. When it gets to next year, we can't be having Rafa.
We need consistency in terms of people that are playing. That's the problem, isn't it? When, for instance, that team just came out against Brentford and it was like, Varane's not playing. Why? He's injured. Everyone went, it wasn't shocking, was it? You know what I mean? And we need that consistency. Like you said, of that, I know we've been hit with injuries, strangely this year, but at the same time, we just need that. We need that consistency, and we need that next up and coming, like you said, 23.
That Todibo should have been it, or whoever it's going to be. But, just that, I need to see it. I need a quick, powerful, fast, at it. I want to look at my team and have someone like Saliba. When you look at what that kid's doing, Man United should have a player like that.
And that's why I'm saying about, with Lindelof, that they might trigger it and sort of move it
to let him go
the year after. Well, I'm saying they might or they might decide to trigger it and keep him for an extra year because you're already talking like maybe Varane, Maguire. You're going to get rid of 3 centre backs.
We actually need an overhaul. And Johnny Evans, he's only got a year.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to get like, what we're going to buy? We're going to buy 4 centre backs in one summer window.
Yeah, and obviously we're not going to do that. So yeah, I think for a bit of continuity, but yeah, if it's me, I'm unless Rafa's again, like I said, he don't mind becoming a Lindelof for 1 year, which he can come in and out to help the young kid. I don't mind that. I don't mind a smooth transition. I don't mind having Rafa about the place at all. I don't mind that. But next year, so that could be in the case of Johnny Evans is going to leave because he's got a 1 year. We've done well to get a year out of him, and he's helped a lot. Don't extend that. Lindelof, you trigger, but let him leave. Varane, you keep. So then you got to go and get 2, you know what I mean, centre halves. Well, Maguire, if he leaves and gets money as well.
This is what I mean.
So it's a lot, yeah. So it's a lot.
That's when fans.
I
think,
don't mind Varane being the Lindelof, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's like the Martial. He's like, he can't play all the time. So your job is to help the next batch come through. And when you're fit, you're still good, by the way. You're still good when you're fit.
Yeah.
You're still quality. You still are. He's our best defender when he's fit.
But Varane, he's of the stature. He's of the stature that I think if he realizes that his position is kind of like, I'm third place, it's kind of, it's changing. He will get an offer from Saudi in the summer.
Yeah.
He's of that stature.
Yeah.
And United and him would be like, well, it's a good offer.
May as well. Yeah, they'll give like 30 million for Varane or something like that. And it's like, yeah, take that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you won't get that for like a Lindelof or whatever. So I think that's why they'll go, we'll trigger that, can move you on, and it can.
Whatever team Varane goes to in Saudi, even if it's Ronaldo's team,
you're celebrating. You're going to be.
I will get the shirt with Varane on the back, 100%. Varane's going to be like my. I know we'll look back at his time here and go, yeah, it was too late in his career. He did all right. He was good, but eventually, essentially, that's what it is. He didn't help us win. Do you know what I mean? But he will be like my little cult hero. I proper love Varane, man. He's my favorite. You guys know this. You guys know that. The ghost, the wraith, the phantom. I'll say it actually. Someone at the club, just as we wrap up, someone at the club said to me, one of the staff members, I was like, yeah, when you in the press conference and that, why didn't you say that? The ghost, the wraith, the phantoms, Rafa's going to be up there for X. It's your fit. I like when you say that. I was like, they said it the wrong way around, actually. They said the wraith, the phantom, the ghost. I said, it doesn't go like that. Say it properly. But they said, I love when you say that. They're watching, mate. Even the club say to go for the wraith, the phantom. You know what I mean? Yeah. Varane knows. Okay. Varane knows. Anyway, smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thanks for watching, guys. We will be across any news that comes out as per usual. We'll keep you posted with anything that comes out the blue. Hopefully it doesn't. It's just to get a bit of calm. Do you know what I mean? And here's to injured players coming back and no one getting done in the international games. Don't come back with injuries, please. I beg of you. Take care, guys. We are out of here. Peace.